If you're a woman in her 30s and 40s, like myself, who's 42, you know that your body changes as you're getting older, and our fitness habits and way we approach exercise needs to change too. So, here are 10 things that I stopped doing in my 30s and 40s that have leveled up my fitness. I am someone who's been in the fitness industry for over 30 years, my entire adult life. It's always been my identity and the thing I've done both personally and professionally. I was a certified personal trainer when I was still in high school. I've coached group classes. I was a certified strength and conditioning coach. I've worked with the military. I've been in the military myself. I was also a professional dancer. And I even owned a women's gym and strength and conditioning facility. So some of these I would say are pretty controversial, especially for someone with the past I've had. But I hope you'll stick around and that you'll get some value out of these things and apply some of these things to your own fitness. So, the first one is probably the most controversial, and that is I stopped going to the gym. I've worked in gyms, I've owned a gym, and I just found that I enjoy working out at home or out in the fresh open air more than I like being in a gym. I just found the environment, I always felt comfortable in it. I didn't feel uncomfortable in the gym the way I know a lot of women do. They don't feel comfortable walking into a gym or a weight room. I felt totally comfortable and that I belonged there. It just became something that like wasn't inspiring for me to move anymore. I just really enjoy moving out at home and having that freedom and the flexibility to wear what I want, do what I want, and not get any weird looks for some of the stuff I might be doing, to take up as much space as I want to, and also just be able to move my body when I want. I don't have to drive somewhere and depending on when they're open, and especially as COVID had taught a lot of us, that could be closed and taken away from you. And so we should have that sovereignty in our own body to be able to move and take charge of our fitness without having to pay someone and to be able to go somewhere. I also just find it's so inconvenient and doesn't really make sense in my brain that I'm going to get in my car and drive somewhere 20 minutes maybe to go move my body. Like, I could just start moving my body now at home where I am. Okay, another controversial one in like the fitness industry, but um, I don't use protein powders and I haven't in decades. And I'm still able to maintain muscle mass just through diet alone. I think it is an unregulated industry, and so I think we don't really know what's in them. I think it's such a heavily processed product anyway that it just can't be good for you. And I don't know, I suspect that in the future, more and more information will come out about how they kind of may be harmful for us. Again, maybe a little bit of a controversial statement. Um, and I just find that I can get it through diet alone, all of my protein needs. I think we over obsess about protein. I think if you eat real food, you can easily get it. You might have to be intentional depending on your own dietary patterns, but I have no problem getting the protein that I need from real food and also maintaining a really high um, muscle mass still at 42, totally without protein powders. The third thing I stopped doing was following fitness social media influencers, fitfluencers. In fact, I quit social media completely. Watching other people do fitness, at first it was fun. And it was really like it could be a source of information. Maybe you're finding some new movements that you want to give a try. But eventually, I think that starts to lead to comparison, and that isn't good for us. And then also, isn't it kind of a little weird that we watch other people work out? I don't know. It just felt a little weird to me, and I found that I was just spending way too much time wasting time on social media, that it's something I cut out, and I'd rather go inward. I think that's something that social media really robs us of, is that we're consuming other people's ideas. We're consuming constant like information versus just going internal and thinking like, oh, okay, what feels right for me? The fourth thing I stopped doing was one single type of workout. So I don't just lift weights. I don't just do cardio or run. I don't just do yoga. I don't just do Pilates. I do a range of things. Our body needs a range of movement, and we can't get everything from just one type of workout. So I like to think of our exercise, our movement, like our diet. We have to have a lot of variety. If you only ate strawberries, you would have a lot of deficiencies. If you only ate, bread, you would have a lot of nutritional deficiencies. And the same goes for our movement diet. If you only lift weights, you're lacking in a lot of other movement capacities that your body has and that your body actually needs for a well developed physical being that is not going to then have injuries and limitations in range of motion. We should be able to twist and jump and walk and crawl and squat and hinge and have rhythm and have control and stability over our body. The fifth thing I stopped doing was wearing plastic workout clothing. Instead, I switched for natural fibers like cotton and linen and bamboo. I'm sure some of you are familiar with the Lululemon lawsuits about the toxic chemicals that have been found in their leggings. I've worn them for years. I know there's even a current one about their yoga mats, of having some toxic materials in them. When we're sweating, which when we're working out, we're sweating, your body is in a state of being more absorbent of those materials when you're working out, when you're sweating. I've also changed to wear natural fibers just in my day to day. I also think it's super important for our children to not be wearing those materials all the time, but especially when they're pursuing sports and physical activities, but definitely I think all the time, because their bodies are still developing. I buy less workout clothes now. I started to realize I don't really need that much. Like, why do we have a closet full of workout gear? But I realize, especially with working out at home, that I only really need 2 to 3 outfits that I can work out in, and that's sufficient. I can wash them and just rewear them. The seventh thing I stopped doing was making fitness and movement a separate part of my day. So what I mean by that is that it wasn't this thing to be scheduled just to go and do. It was a part of how I lived and moved every day, that I wanted to embrace just a life full of movement anyway. And I think when I did that, working out became less stressful. Working out was a supplement on top of all of the movement that I was getting through that day or through that week. So that looks like, for me, as a mom, being pretty active with my little guy. We play a lot. I'm down on the floor with him. I love to garden. I make all of our food from scratch. I like to go on walks and explore outdoors with him. So all of this is a really movement-rich day. And then if I have the time and the energy, I can exercise on top of that if I feel inspired to do so. So it put less pressure and stress on me to feel like I had to work out 5-6 days a week, because I knew I was getting so much movement in a regular day. The eighth thing I stopped doing was exercising specifically for certain body goals. So instead, my focus now, as I've gotten older, is definitely for health, just longevity of movement, and just for fun and to learn new skills. It's okay to want to be happy and confident with how your body looks, but it doesn't have to be something you obsess over or you even specifically try to attain. I think you can totally get there by just making health and your ability to move and move well as the goal, and then that positive body appearance will come. I grew up also as a dancer. I was classically trained at a high level ballet school, and I danced all the way through my high school, even my high school years, into my early 20s, and even danced at a professional level in when I was 20, 21, not in ballet, but as a cheerleader for the NFL. And then my life took a different turn, and I joined the military, and then my career just went on in fitness and in the military, and eventually as a civilian working for the military. And I kind of forgot about dance. It just wasn't a part of my life for 20 years until I turned 40. And I just felt this pull to want to dance again. It was something missing in my life. And so on my 40th birthday, I was able to take my first ballet class in 20 some years. And I just fell back in love with it. And 2 years later, I'm still dancing and moved on from not only ballet, but trying all kinds of different styles that I hadn't done before, like heels, which is a really fun type of dance to try, especially for us older ladies, because it just really puts us in our body. And I think it's just given me a new appreciation for my body. So it's not just about the way it looks, but it's about what it can do. And how fun and joyful it can be just to move. And I think dance really does that. I think dance can be so freeing and really gives us an appreciation for the way our body can move and not just the way it can look. And of course, dance is such an appearance based pursuit also, but as an adult I don't feel that pressure that I felt when I was younger. And taking classes with other adults, it's such a supportive environment that I really love being back in it. And so it's really fun to connect my body to movement in that way again. And then it gives me a focus to stay motivated, that my workouts that I do are, yes, for my health, but they're also for getting better in my dancing, because I find so much joy in that. The ninth thing I stopped doing was fearing certain foods. I think a lot of people, women especially, have had these phases of having rules around foods, and not because of health reasons, but because of the fear of how that will make our body look. And so, yes, there are certain foods that I avoid because of health reasons, because I know that they aren't the right fit for my body, but not because I'm afraid of they'll make me fat or because I'm afraid of what my body composition would be if I consume those foods. The last thing, the 10th thing that I stopped doing to level up my fitness was stopped wearing big, clunky workout shoes, running shoes, and sometimes, actually most of the time, wear no shoes whatsoever when I work out. Especially myself, growing up as a dancer, and having my feet shoved into little tight point shoes. My feet are, they're not the most aesthetic, let's just say that. I have bunions, I have flat feet, and shoving them into shoes that just don't let my toes spread and force an arch for me just are really painful. And in the 80s and 90s when I was a kid, that's what we did. I had to wear these like really thick medical grade custom made thick plastic orthotics in my shoes because they wanted me to have an arch. And they were so painful that I wouldn't wear them. And my parents would be so mad at me because it cost so much money and time to have these things made. But that's just not my feet. My feet weren't meant to be that shape. Wearing flat soled with minimal, no arch, wide toe box just fit my feet the best. I'm able to move my feet in there, maybe I'll spread my toes and not feel confined. That goes for everybody, not just people with funky dancer feet like me. Changes the alignment of the rest of your body. So when you're in this like position of your foot, because our shoes have like this chunky sole on it that's thinner here but wider here, so your foot has to be here, it changes the rest of your body's positioning. You go to move in that position, everything gets thrown off, and so your body starts to compensate for that new position. A lot of the time I'm just fully barefoot, and that's another reason why not going to the gym is really great, because I can just be shoeless. I can be barefoot and be no issues. No one's going to tell me that I have to put my shoes back on. So there you have it, the 10 things that I stopped doing to level up my fitness in my 30s and 40s. I'm sure there will eventually be more. Maybe there's going to be a continuation of this. I hope you got something from this. Let me know in the comments if you have stopped doing any of these things, or if any of these things are something that you want to stop doing. And let's start a conversation about it. Maybe I can help you out. Thank you for being here, friend. I'll see you next time.